Evening, everyone. Calling to order. Roll call, please, Lisa.
Mr. Guadagnino, Mr. Palladino,
Here.
Mr. Andrews, Mr. Corbin,
Here.
Mr. Davis,
Here.
Mr. Socia,
Here.
Mayor Womack.
Sunshine notice, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by publication in the Home News and Tribune on January 3rd, 2017, indicating that the North Windsor Township Council holds regular meetings on the first and third Monday of each month at 7 p.m. at 710 Herman Road, North Brunswick, and agenda meetings on the second and fourth Monday of the month at the same place at 7 p.m. In the event a regular meeting falls on a legal holiday, the meeting shall be held on Tuesday night after said holiday at the same place and hour.
Okay, Carla, you're up. Evening, how are you?
Good evening, thank you.
Do you have any questions on the bill list?
And the second item is chapter 159, electronic driving equipment fund. We received $10,853.25 award.
Is there a match with that?
No, there's no match for this one. And then the last item is reinstatement of Michigan payment plan for Belford
Is it
residents.
just the usual? Is that going as
Just the
is?
Yeah, how was that good?
I mean, it's about 8 more delinquent accounts so far, but they catch up throughout the quarter. At the end of the quarter, we usually have maybe 1 or 2.
Oh, okay. Great. Any other questions for Cal?
Thank you.
Cal, you have a good night, right? Ms. Benson.
Good evening, Council President.
How are you?
Thank you. And our council members, our business administrator, and residents joining us.
People around the world.
You look like the town attorney, the clerk, I mean.
I hope everyone's having a pleasant evening and hope you had a wonderful weekend. There was wonderful weather. I can take it. Bring it on. I just really, on a serious note, I'd like to thank everyone this evening for their help. We had our veteran street naming dedications this evening, and we had 3 very, very moving ceremonies. And I'd like to thank Council President Carlos Socio for supporting me, as well as Councilman Bob Davis, who has been working on this project with me over the last several years. And I'd also like to thank Director Chazar, Director Ritz. They were part of our events tonight, as well as our Public Information Officer, Craig Yetsko, and our police, who were great assistants getting us from one side of town back to the other in lightning speed. Well, I won't go into detail.
I didn't need that escort, that was good.
But I really want to thank them because tonight we were really on opposite ends of town, and they were extremely helpful. And to the families tonight that we got to meet, the stories just continue to be so motivating, as well as Councilman Davis, as he reads the proclamation, can attest to that. So thank you, everyone. And our next street namings are on October 2nd. If there's any questions, we'll have them posted in the Times as well. My first item is Scholar Athlete Artist. My second item is Heritage Day, and that will take place on Saturday, October 7th at the North Brunswick Community Park with opening ceremonies at 1 p.m. Same time, same location, in case of a rain date, which will take place on October 8th. I am very proud to share that we will be honoring Kathy Arrudo at our night ceremony at 7 p.m. Kathy works tireless with our food bank and does a tremendous job throughout the year. So thank you to her and everyone that volunteers. My next item is our Halloween hauntings, which will take place on Saturday, October 21st at Veterans Park from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. And my last item this evening is authorizing a shared service agreement with Middlesex County Public Health Department for health and environmental services.
Any questions for Ms.
Yeah, I want to just add one other thing on. As Luann said, we have next week, we'll have 3 more street namings, and then the following week, we'll have 3 more, and that'll be it until April. So for you who are listening, we're really doing a great job of catching up. We're doing 29 families. So if you have relatives, friends, in North Brunswick, who our veterans and, should be recognized. We've had, a lot of World War II, Korea, some of Afghanistan and Iraq, but I'm sure there are a lot of other young veterans out there too. So if you just get your paperwork in or call Luann's office, and it's really, it's a great tribute to all these people that have been going very well, and Luann's worked extremely hard on it. So if you have any questions, just call Luann's office, and we will keep bringing this up because it's that important. Thank you.
And I just want to add, our Veterans Paper Brick Project is ongoing as well. We have approximately 250 families, and that's at Veterans Park, and it's really nice to see a lot of families visit that site during the week, and we see them sitting, on the benches and just enjoying the site. So I really want to thank our mayor and our council for the support with that ongoing project as well. And that's $75 for a paper brick, and we can etch the name of the service member as well as the branch and the date served. So that's ongoing. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone has a good evening.
Thank you, Luann.
Chazar.
Good evening, Council President. Council, 3 items this evening. First item is authorizing the advertisement for receipt of bids for one side-loading refuse packer. Second item is authorizing a change in scope to the PSA CME Associates appointed as 2017 consulting engineers to include construction phase services for Howland Pump Station pump replacement project.
Really quick, going back to number 1. That's just a regular garbage truck, one of our...
Yes,
one of our
we're
bandits?
replacing a 2007
Okay.
unit that has served its time very well.
What are the few that actually has without a lot of breakdowns? Or what?
No, they don't.
Okay, well,
They pave Edgeboro right to the drop site.
yeah.
I think they last a little longer. Third item is advertising for receipt of bids for one pickup truck with plow that will be replacing an, I believe it's a 12-year-old.
Probably won't be a Ford, right? That would be a low for them. So I heard today, Ford, we're going for GMC or Chevy?
We're trying for Jams. Or Chevy. Or
Whichever
equivalent. Or equivalent. Or equivalent.
All right, any questions for the department? And leaf bag pickup is still ongoing?
Yes,
Normal business hours and Saturday?
Normal business hours, 8 to 4, and on Saturday, 8 to 12.
And when do leaf bag pickups begin?
The last week in October. Okay. We try and do a sweep of whatever's out there before Michigan.
Gotcha. All right, thanks, sir. Thank you. Mr. Ritz.
Everyone, there's 2 items this evening. The first one is executing an agreement with the county for our CDBG program. Every 3 years or so, we typically amend the agreement. This year, because there were multiple amendments, the county asked us to just renew, rather than amending it, they just provided us with an entirely new agreement, which is in your package. So this is crucial to us getting our annual allotment for CDBG funding.
Michael, just for the people who don't know what that is that are watching this.
The Community Development Block Grant provides us with an annual allocation of many $1,000s for housing rehabilitation for low-income residents throughout the township. And we've been able to support other things throughout the town as well, such as pedestrian crosswalks, improvements to our senior citizen center, but primarily it's a housing rehabilitation program.
Are we allowed to get the same level of funding that we normally get? Or?
We are consistent. The second item this evening is for CIS management. This is for the Crescent Apartment Complex, to bring you up to date. So you recall after many challenging years of trying to secure the financing and low-income tax credits for that project, CIS secured their funding last fall, and so they've been renovating throughout this year, and the first 3 buildings in the complex have been fully renovated, and we're beginning to move residents back into those units. And soon, they'll be following their approved marketing plan to advertise and solicit for new residents who qualify for affordable housing, and they will take place in a version of a lottery for these brand-new units. In order to do that, this goes back to our settle agreement last year for affordable housing, we have to name them as an administrative agent. You've done this once before, many years ago, when we named the Housing Corporation next door as the administrative agent for their tenants. And so in this case, we are naming CIS Management as the designated administrative agent for Crescent. So their job will be to certify to go through the process and certify to us that all of their approved applicants and all of their residents meet the legal guidelines and income thresholds to qualify for affordable housing. So rather than doing that work ourselves, we authorize them to be the administrative agent, and then they provide those certifications to us, and Tom Digna, as our municipal housing liaison, reviews those documents.
They're approved to do that, correct? Yes.
They are, they have to meet, they provided us, which I think is in your backup, that they provide us written documents to demonstrate that they have experience and that they have certified staff that are qualified to engage in that process. So, many, many years later, for your $5 million investment that we made years ago, this is finally happening. It's quite impressive. I think when they get a little bit farther on the one section, the clubhouse is under construction. Should probably get you folks out there at some point and see, after all these years, comparing these brick structures that were built back in the late 60s and early 70s, which have been renovated down to their core. These units now have central air conditioning, which they never had before. They have washers and dryers in the units, which they never had before. They're really, they're doing a nice job, but it's been a long time coming.
What do they do with those common laundry room areas over there then?
The common, well, they weren't common, they were in the basements. They were in the basements. Those basements and boiler rooms were eliminated, and the units were all brought into the individual units. So each unit now has washers and
Where is this one?
dryers.
Is this where that music place was?
No, this is between Howe Lane and Route
Oh, right.
27, behind the Georgetown Apartments. And we contributed $5 million towards a $10 million purchase, and to get 100% affordable housing credits. And then we negotiated an additional $250,000 with agreements that they would make improvements by building a clubhouse, a playground. There was never a playground on the site, and do some other landscaping improvements as well. And all of those items are under construction. So they're now beginning to shut down the next series of 9 buildings and temporarily recoding residents and moving them around. But when they're done, there's actually going to be a net number of units that will be available to the public for the first time.
But are the same people moving back in? Or not?
Some are and some are not. It's complicated, but over time, people got relocation money. They provided them, several residents got as much as $4,000 in order to allow them to relocate. Some of them chose to take that.
So it's not affecting the number of children in the town?
No.
Because there were already children there.
There were already children there before. I mean, in recent times, they've probably significantly diminished, but it'll trend back up again as the new units are occupied.
Do you have to reapply, or do they just get it automatically?
Get what automatically?
Do they commit to those apartments on their own, or do they have to reapply paperwork?
Everybody will have to requalify.
Requalify?
Yes, yeah, that was part of the process. Everybody will have to requalify. But there'll be under these new terms, there'll be this new public process. They're gonna have to advertise in newspapers, they have to notify many different social service agencies to let them know that units are available, like the Puerto Rican Action Board and others. There are homeless and veteran units that we require be included as part of this inventory. They have preferences. So all of this will begin to happen as these new units become available.
And like if somebody, for example, had been in those units prior to that, and then when you advertise, of course, you're going to get new one. maybe, you might get more. Who would qualify? The person that was there before, or?
Yeah, the
new person? How do you
existing
make the
tenants
decision?
have to qualify for the affordable housing, but they don't have to participate in the lottery, as it were.
That's-
So as long as they qualify,
Yeah.
they're guaranteed to a new unit. But because many families chose to take the incentive and relocate, when we start to move into these first 3 buildings and then the second 6, there were 9 in this first section, there will be a net number of units where they no longer have any existing residents who have to be requalified. So those will be the first units that will be available to the general public, as long as they qualify. Okay?
Yeah.
Right.
Michael, if I may.
Yes.
Because I remember when we walked through it that time. And one of the other reasons was to make that part of the community a safer community.
Absolutely.
And if somebody, if they have houses there and they get in trouble, criminal mischief or whatever, they can be.
Well, and CIS, even during the 5-year transition period, has basically been doing what was not being done, is they were enforcing leases and enforcing the terms of the lease. So over time, if we were to get from public safety, our stats on this, our police, fire, and first aid at that response at that facility has been reduced to virtually 0. And for a time, it was perhaps one of our highest call levels of anywhere in.
Right, that's why I said, that's why we made that, made sure that.
Yeah, it was a double bonus for us. Not only did we get 100% of the affordable housing credits, but we're improving the housing and eliminating, which was a serious test and challenge of our first response.
It also prevented us from having to send our funds that we collected from developers, because the governor at that time was telling all towns that any money they had
Absolutely.
for these purposes that towns have collected, they had to send it to Trenton.
Right.
And we were fortunate to find a partner there was just so many aspects of it that was positive that it was well worth it.
Absolutely, Colette. We had a risk because we had one of the highest net accounts, probably of municipalities in the entire state. And this is where we spent a significant percentage of our savings, as it were, all for an appropriate source.
What it was intended for.
Absolutely, what it was intended for, before the state could try and steal it. So.
That's true.
And using the general fund.
Yes, all right.
Any other
Thank you.
questions for Michael? Thanks, Michael.
The first item I have is a resolution authorizing a refund to a township resident for their water sewer utility account. This is just a closed account, so we issue a refund on the overpayment. The second item I have is a resolution authorizing the issuance of requests for proposals, or RFPs, for professional services for the calendar year 2018. So we do this every year. Yep, and the whole list of professional services will go out for proposals. They send them back in, we review them, and then bring back the recommendation to all of you. The third item I have is really just an update or a discussion piece for a temporary supply of water to Franklin Township. They approached us in American Water. They're taking out of service one of their water tanks for repair and normal things that they're doing, but it's going to take them a couple of months. So they wanted us to supply them water up to 1 million gallons a day. So we already have a connection with them to supply them that water, so it's relatively easy. They have an active account with us, and that connection is metered, so we really don't have to do anything except supply them the water. I don't think that we have to take any action at this point, because we already do have an active account with them. If we didn't, we might want to set up some type of agreement, but you got to be careful when you set up agreements with them too, because we want to be able to reserve our water if we, for whatever reason, we can't supply them with the amount that they need per day. We still think we can, this isn't going to be a problem, but if there were any issues, we want to be able to pull that back in our water, so.
We're not restricting how much water we can pull out of the canal, at the state, right?
That's correct.
And
That's correct. But we're not, so close to our limit that we can't do this. We feel this is
Awesome.
fine. And the 1 million gallons a day is really just an estimate on their part. They did a test period for a day or two, and they didn't utilize any water from us, so they may be okay or have something less than that they'll require from us.
I'm talking basically in the future, whereas we're not discussing it now. If in fact we someday are able to supply water to municipalities, South Brunswick, where it might be, would we be able to increase our amount of water we can pull out of the canal?
Well, there's a couple of things that we'll have to do, and one of them is to find our non-revenue water, which we talked about on Saturday with all of that. So I think once we do that we'll have that capacity to be able to do that. So that's going to be key. And hopefully over the next months, year, we'll be able to account for that water. The last item that I have is our Mile Run Interceptor project. As you know, we have a contract with P&A Construction to do the improvement to the Mile Run Interceptor. Last month, you approved a change order in the amount of $72,881 because they found a water line belonging to New Brunswick down there, so we ended up with an agreement with New Brunswick. They are paying for that change order in order to move that water line so that we can access the sewer line that we're trying to get at. They finished laying that and moving it and putting the new pipe down. And when they went to go make the connection, at the points where they need to connect it, they have another conflict. They found some utilities and things laying on top of the water line and makes the connection really impossible to make there. So now they've proposed another change order to be able to make a connection in a different spot, which involves them laying even more water line there and then connecting at a different spot. We've had conversations with New Brunswick already. They have also agreed to pay for this. They see the benefit in them getting the replacement of the line, and as long as we're there and have the ground open, they're willing to go ahead with that project. But it involves a change order. I'll be able to provide this all to you because once we agree to this with New Brunswick, we have to amend the agreement that we have with them in order to accept this new change order, and of course them paying for it. And we have a certification from our engineers from Stantec that says this was really unavoidable, not something that they anticipated or saw during the preparation or even the construction of starting the new change order, the change order work.
Let me ask you this, guys. How did that stuff get on top of something?
So let's talk about I spoke with the attorney for New Brunswick today. They don't know how this happened, but they recognize that it's for their benefit, and I was told whatever we need to send them to amend the agreement, they are on board with it. Why it got approved that way in the first place, that's more of a mystery, and I don't think we'll ever know that. But it was a mix of water and electric lines, and that's generally not a good thing.
I'm not an electrician. I think it sounds like to me almost an admission. Let's do it the quickest way we can, and it'll be all right.
Could be.
I'm not saying that. I
Well,
shouldn't say that.
it may be, but even if you recall that, the drawings that New Brunswick had for the original part of the project didn't have the water line where it was either. So those drawings were even off the as-built. So, I think, and plus I think they made a comment that the water line was like 18 feet down. Is that right?
The water line's 19 feet, and then when they built that new development over there, it's the cable and the electric was built on top of it,
Right.
so they never They just built across it.
So that's how it happens. The good news is that once they complete this change order work, they really only have a few days left and they can finish the original work that they set out to do and that we contracted them for.
I think the good news, part of the good news too is they're paying for it.
Well, that's very good news, yes. It would have really complicated the rest of the project, so. But
If we
this.
had to pay our attorney, it probably would cost us more.
Attorney jokes
No, we have to hire, we have to hire outside.
Being an attorney, you would know how expensive
Wow. I'm trying.
Whoa!
I've been reading.
It's a little hot to try.
Save it for first agenda meeting of the month. Anything else, Kath? Any other questions for Kathy regarding this or anything else?
That's it. I think you just need to know that we'll end up, doing something, the council will have a resolution in order to, for the agreement with New Brunswick, but that this change or this second one does put it over that 20% mark, so that's why we got the certification from the engineer.
Thanks for the great news, Kathy. Lisa?
Okay, item number 1 is a ordinance on second reading and public hearing, number 17-13. And we have minutes from our regular council meeting of September 18th, 2017. We are making one correction to the date of Heritage Day.
Since I got it wrong, yeah. Anything else for Lisa?
Nobody has signed it.
No one has
Some look at Kenny, he always says.
Can we get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Need to adjourn the meeting? Motion to adjourn the meeting. Second, all in favor? Good night, everyone.
Have a wonderful